Go. Welcome to the Couch Time
Hey,
podcast.
come on. If you're gonna do the intro, look him in the eye. You know,
I can't memorize this.
You don't know the intro?
I can't memorize it. It's the worst thing. Welcome to the Couch Time podcast, where we give you tools to connect with your kids and point them to Jesus. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Stephen Petrie.
And today, we've got a good one for you. We are continuing our march through our book right here called Engaging Your Teen's World, understanding what today's youth are thinking, doing, and watching.
And Mr. Aaron Barnett just had a baby.
Oh my goodness,
Aaron and
yes.
Eliza. That's super sweet.
That is super sweet.
So if you know Aaron and Eliza, text them. Say, hey, congratulations. Another one. You got another baby. Little baby boy, Benjamin Barnett.
Mm-hmm.
Born today, but I don't think this podcast comes out till next week. So
Yeah.
kind of awkward. Maybe it's old news, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, well, we'll send this podcast episode to Aaron to listen to in like a decade.
Yep.
Figuring out how to talk to Ben about these conversations. This will be so helpful for him.
Yeah, he's going to learn all about it.
So congratulations to the Barnett family
Let's go.
on their new baby boy. Very fun.
Very
Good
excited.
stuff. All right, we're going to continue talking, and this week's chapter is called Cultivating a Heart of Connection.
Cultivating a heart of connection.
Oh, you're right. It's just a heart connection.
Okay. I was like, whoa, this.
Sorry, that
I'm
threw
going to
you
have to
off.
change everything that I've planned for this podcast.
What would be the difference? What would be the difference for you?
So a heart of connection is I'm trying to cultivate their heart
Is
to
it
be able
your
to
heart
connect
posture?
to lots of other things.
Mm,
If I want to cultivate a heart connection, I want to connect with their heart.
bingo.
So one thing is like I want to set them up to just cultivate, just connecting to, could be all sorts of bad stuff too. But cultivate a heart connection. It's like I want to grow connected and close with them so that I know them on an intimate level and they know me on an intimate level.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you just succinctly pretty much summarize this chapter.
A little bit.
A little bit. But really this chapter is where they begin to try to get a bit more practical with what are some steps that you can follow to cultivate a heart connection.
Yeah.
With your child, with the students. So
Because I'd say so far, I mean, the entire book, it's going to keep coming back to the same theme. And in some ways, it seems very repetitive. Repetition can be good, though, because, I mean, I know what the book's about, very much so. And I've read it several chapters, and the main theme sticks out, which is just how do you connect with your kid through conversation over a period of lifetime, that goes on for a long time. So this chapter is more of a trying to succinctly, in a practical way, say, okay, what are a couple different ideas, things to be considering to be able to have a conversation with your student that allows you all to understand each other on a deep level, on a heart level, to a point where you can help them walk through and navigate the teen years, which some things may be very shocking to you that they're going with. Some things may make you nervous or scared that they're going through and dealing with. But how can you look back on your own life, evaluate how the Lord has grown and matured you, and then be able to provide insight, love, care, shepherding of your student as they try to navigate what life looks like now in their culture years after you've been a teen.
Yep. So on page 82, they talk about different levels of conversation. Level 2 is seeing their point of view, and this is probably my favorite part of the chapter. And here's why. I think one of the biggest obstacles that parents and students have with having an ongoing conversation is that parents feel like they are out of touch with what's going on and they can't relate, and students feel the exact same way, that their parents are out of touch and can't relate, and so because of that, there's no connection. They just don't talk. We're out of touch with each other. We cannot relate. And one of the exercises they encourage parents to do is to do sort of a personal inventory. And so it's to think about what your life was like as a middle school or a high school student, and sort of to put yourself in their shoes. Because there's another book I like, and I've got it right here. It's for youth pastors, but it's just called Middle School Ministry. But they have like a personal inventory questionnaire and what they talk about is that, yes, your life as a middle school, high school, or in high school student parent is very different than what students are going through. But paradoxically, it's also very similar. Like some of the circumstances, the specific circumstances are different, but the heart issues,
Yeah.
the things that you're thinking through, we're thinking through as a middle schooler, and the things that they're thinking through, though the mediums are different, the heart attitudes are still the same.
Yeah, I mean, we have God's word written thousands of years ago.
Yes.
And still connects to, I mean, it's a little different because it's living and active, but the spirit inspired it, whatever. But the same sin issues that were being dealt with thousands of years ago are still the same sin issues that we're dealing with today.
Yep.
The same desires of a heart are very similar to what students are dealing with today. So while different things come and go that influence how we operate, how we live, affects different ways that we can do things, at the end of the day, a lot of the motivations are very similar. So you can understand your kid's heart to a degree of like, oh, I understand why they could fall into this path or why they go with this or why they're confused by this.
Yep.
If you take the time to connect what they're going through with what life was like at that age for you.
Yep. So I like that task that they give to sort of try to do. It's a good exercise for you as parents to do, is to think back on what your experience was like as a middle school or high school students.
What was the questions that it asked
So
for you to consider?
Yeah. So this book, I love this book. And we can put it in the show notes, and the page number. But I like it because it intentionally uses the differences that you experienced and that your child is experiencing to form a connection. So it's leaning into the fact that, yes, I don't get it, but here's what I experienced. So what was here? I'll go through some of them. Stephen, I want you to answer these questions.
Oh boy, we'll
okay,
try.
Let's do further back would have been middle school. Can you
Okay.
think back to that?
I can try. Yeah.
Okay. What was popular styles, trends, fashions?
Abercrombie and Fitch,
Yes.
Aeropostale, but with like the stitching was like super prevalent on the shirts. So like it was very thready,
Yep.
if you may.
Yeah, very thready.
And like cargo shorts, long like Justin Bieber style haircuts.
Yes.
And yeah, the style fashion wise, I'd say Abercrombie Fitch, Aeropostale were very much in. I was not allowed to buy Abercrombie and Fitch stuff. It was like,
Yep.
yeah, so I never had any.
What was quote unquote cutting edge in
Oof.
technology? Or put another way, what were the latest inventions?
The latest inventions. Wow. I mean, I
What year was this, by the way?
I graduated high school 2015, so middle school would be 2011
2011.
through like 2009.
Yep. Great.
So I mean, the iPhone was probably coming out around the end of my middle school years. I can't remember when like the iPhone 4 was probably coming around then. So just smartphones in general. I had a flip phone, then a BlackBerry. Like so, phones were progressively getting nicer to where there was a time when you had to pay. In middle school, I remember a time where like you could pay to have internet usage on your phone.
Yep.
And you could go to it, versus a time when all of a sudden now everyone had unlimited internet access on their phone. And that was like a huge difference, I feel like, in the world.
Yep. I remember, even you doing this brings back like memories for me when you were in middle school, like 2011, that would have been in high school. But even puts me back in my shoes. I can remember I had not a smartphone, just a cell phone. And I remember like the biggest thing for me was like I did not have good cell phone service at my house, and I had to run out to the end of my driveway to send a text to my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought about. And it drove me nuts when I couldn't.
Yeah. iPods. I had like an iPod Nano and stuff like that. That was very, very
Totally.
cool.
All right. What were stories that were being covered on the evening news?
Wow.
2011. The Boston Red Sox won the World Series.
Stories being covered on the evening news. I never really like watched the news. I feel
Bingo.
but again, that has to do with, the difference between now and today.
Yes.
Was I had a phone that didn't have crazy internet access, so it wasn't like I was always getting the updates of what was going on in society. There wasn't as much social media, so I wasn't always seeing different things getting posted, where now I can stay up to date with kind of what's going on in a large part of the world just by getting on Twitter and just scrolling for a while, or getting on Instagram and seeing what people are posting on their stories. So I was kind of out of touch with the actual worldwide news.
Yep. I remember when I was in high school, agreed. Like, I didn't have my own computer. I had a dumb phone.
Yeah.
We still had the newspaper delivered to our house, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad would read it. I would hear the news from him and maybe from my friends if something was big enough.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So how does that, so if parents are asking themselves those questions from back when they were in middle school or high school, how would that then help them try to love their kid?
Yep. I think for me, like even what that questionnaire did for us, it opens up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It allows for me to remember back to what was most important to me when I was in middle school and high school. It was talking to girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably fairly similar
Yeah.
for your kids. I think it helps, even though the medium things looked very different, it makes you relatable as a parent.
Yeah.
Because again, like we said, the same things that we're experiencing are some of the similar things that your kids are experiencing today. So it makes you more relatable in that sense.
Yeah, I think also if you consider like what things did you hide from your parents when you were in middle school or high
Yeah.
school, and to what lengths would you go to sneak around things or go around things, and then consider like, oh, okay, so my kids probably are doing that as well to a degree, and thinking about like, oh wow, like it wasn't a huge. It talks about an emergency a lot of times, like what's an emergency.
Totally.
And I think as a parent, when sin comes up or hard issues come up, it can be an easy first instinct to freak out and kind of overreact, when the book talks a lot about taking a step back, like getting a plan together, thinking, taking a deep breath, and then being able to approach your kid in a conversation that builds trust in relationship rather than destroys your bond, destroys any future conversation. Doesn't mean like don't call them out on sin or don't help lead them away from bad things, but the way in which you do that kind of shows your love for them, God's grace for them, how God sees them. So
Right. And I think this exercise along the same lines that you're talking about helps you as a parent develop maybe a little bit more empathy for what your kids are going through, because then we remember back to how we were going through those things. Like, yeah, I also hid things from my parents.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I also was tempted by these things. I also experienced. And so it again, placing yourself in their shoes, remembering back to your own experiences can help you become a bit more empathetic to what your kids are going through and not be maybe so legalistic. Certainly there's time where you need to be stern and punishments available, but also to allow you to be a bit more lenient because you've been there too.
Yeah.
So, and that'll help open up some conversation for you. So I really like that exercise. I think it's good. Even if you wanted to if you wanted as parents to think through like, hey, take your kid out to lunch or dinner or somewhere fun and go through, create some questions like that and walk through them with your kid. I think that could be like a great opportunity to open up conversation.
Yeah, because I think the whole point of the personal inventory was then to be able to ask questions about them.
Bingo.
So that you then could understand their world, their environment, their culture, to then be able to know them better, have a heart connection, understand who they are, understand what's going on inside of them, not just externally, but internally, the emotions, the motivations, the sin, the things they're striving for, by being able to connect it to how you were as a kid, then understanding them, asking them questions, having them express to you why these things are appealing or why these things are so common in today's world, whatever they are that your kid's interested in or dealing with. So then they can build trust and build relationship to be able to shepherd them towards Christ, to be able to express the gospel in a way that they see you as someone who actually understands and cares. And even if you don't know everything, at least they can tell that you care about everything.
Yep. I remember when I was a kid, my dad telling me about this arcade football thing that he played in like the 1970s.
Yeah.
And then I can remember then me getting excited. Well, yeah, I've got N64. And like having that conversation with him that opened up a door. His sharing what he experienced allowed me to share what I'm experiencing today and the technology that I'm seeing today.
Yeah.
So,
and hopefully as you have some of those conversations, that then will open up doors to even harder conversations. It's like probably starts kind of surfacey with some of like things like video games or those kind of
Totally.
things. But how you navigate, I think it's Aaron Barnett that says a lot, is like how you navigate the shallows will affect like how you swim in the deep or something like that
Totally.
along those lines. So it's like how you navigate the shallow conversations of your experience, their experience, how they connect in some way, learning, asking clarifying questions, having them express to you why this thing is so cool that you probably don't care about at all, then shows them like, oh, I can talk to my parent about something even a little bit more deep, a little bit more hidden, a little bit more secret, and then hopefully that keeps opening and opening and opening to where it's like, oh, we know each other. We care about each other on a deep level.
Yep, totally. And I think too, it'll allow you to, I like that. Like by starting with these shallow things, it'll open up the door for you. Like I love when students come to me and ask me questions that I know that they were probably hesitant to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like at youth group of like, why is homosexuality a sin? Or how do I know that the Bible is true?
Mm-hmm.
Questions that they might be afraid to ask their youth pastor or their youth leader. Well, how do we get there?
Yeah.
We started with maybe the seemingly more mundane topics and just built trust over time.
Yep.
So, so that was level 2, personal inventory. Level 3 was curiosity.
We kind of like moved into that a little bit. Like
Yeah,
I was like
so,
talking about why we go, how the point of level 2 is to get to level 3 where we're curious, understanding.
Totally.
And then I think level 4,
Keep it going.
Yeah, level 4 calls it a level 4 conversation, but I just doesn't. It feels like it should just end at level 3 and then like repeat the cycle.
Go back to 1.
So it's not really. I feel like level 4 wasn't really a conversation. More was like, hey, here's an arrow back to the front, which is just a good mindset of like, hey, this doesn't stop. It's a lifelong process of learning, evaluating your own experience, how it connects, asking questions, getting to know them, building trust, learning. You know, it's a never-ending cycle that hopefully opens doors for gospel conversations.
Yeah, totally. And the chapter started off with the story. What was it? He did like the
man year.
The man year.
That's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea. I think that's like one takeaway that I have. I've heard of parents at churches like having, like, hey, when like a initiation, like from being a boy to a man, we're gonna go do this trip, and they have those questions. They have intentional questions, but again, back to level 4, they use that one-time trip or that 1 year as a launching point to continuing conversations with kids. Yep. Anything else from the chapter, Stephen, stuck out to you?
All I will say, I like this to wrap up.
Yes.
The very first line of the entire chapter, it's a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. It says, "Our lives begin to end the day." Oh, sorry. I didn't read it with the right, mess up the punctuation there.
Not a heart of connection.
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So I think it's really easy to be silent about things that matter because things that matter are often hard to talk about. Things that matter are often confusing, difficult, create all sorts of emotions, stress. There's vocabulary that we don't understand with one another. And it's a lot of times easier to talk about things that don't matter because it doesn't hurt as much and it's really simple and you can just kind of fake it through. So I'd encourage parents to keep trying to have conversations about things that matter, no matter how difficult that becomes, how strenuous that becomes. Stay prayed up, stay seeking the Lord, and just keep opening the door for conversations that matter so that you can continue to build a life of heart connection. So,
nice. Lovely. Well done. Well, friends, that's all we got for you. We hope you have a great week, great rest of your week. We will catch you next time. Peace.
Yow.
Hey, thanks for watching.
You can follow us on Instagram at the Couch Time Podcast.
Let us know what you thought about the podcast. Also, let us know if there's any topics or things you'd like us to cover. You can comment and email us at podcast@graceky.org.
Please like, subscribe, and share the video with other parents.